had it, didn't want to sell, you could sell it for
I mean,
more money?
I think the state may open up licenses as the population grows. I think it's based on population. I know they're transferable. You can purchase a liquor license from a bar in, say, Columbia Falls that goes out of business and move it to Whitefish. I don't know all the details and ins and outs of how that works, but there is a limited number of them, and they're very expensive. And they're not easy to obtain by any means.
I was curious. Okay, thank you.
I looked at this quite a bit today, and was interested in the fact that the city had carved out this supplant of the state law because we wanted to be able to have restaurants with cabaret licenses so that families could eat downtown, is what I'm thinking the intent for that was. So even if it was close to a school or a church, we could say, and state law allowed us to say, this can be in this space. From my perspective, as far as what the city has carved out, and for us doing a conditional use permit, this does not meet. I agree with John that it doesn't fit with the character of the neighborhood because it's only liquor and retail. It's not food at this point. It's not a restaurant. It's a retail shop with hard alcohol. And because we didn't specifically say bars and lounges also are exempt, as a city, I think that the CUP on this doesn't work for me.
Just comment. Yeah, I appreciate your concerns. And I think that it does somewhat set a precedent in the fact that, right on Central Avenue, one of the jewelry stores could say, hey, we want to have an experience. And so we bought a liquor license and you can come in and buy your rings and baubles and have a drink too. And it's just, I just don't like the feel of it.
All right, ready to call the question and have a vote? Okay, the motion has been made and seconded to approve WCUP 2505. So all in favor of approving this conditional use permit, raise your hand. Okay, 2-4, all against. Okay, 4 against. So we will send this forward with a motion to a disapproval from this board. So thank you, guys.
You'll need to revise the findings to
Okay.
support a motion to deny. So you'll need a motion to deny as well.
Okay. So specifically looking at this, just a moment. So number 7, finding number 7, the project is compatible with the neighborhood and community. There, I would propose that we say the project is not compatible with the neighborhood and community. Does that? Yes, Rebecca?
Could we also add a finding that the board does not find it compliant with our 1997 standard?
I mean, that 97 standard wouldn't apply to this because it only applies to restaurant beers and wine. And that exception just says that in those cases, we can supplant state law. State law allows this to operate there, so we're not supplanting anything.
However,
if it gets denied, then the city would be acting more restrictive than the state.
but it's a conditional use permit, so we do have that, right?
Certainly,
And-
it's at the discretion of the city council.
And also, the reason why the state waits on our approval before issuing a liquor license is because it has to match with what the community believes is correct for us, correct?
I mean, yeah, if the city does recommend denial of it, obviously the state's not going to issue the liquor license.
Yeah, but so,
At least allow them to operate on that location.
okay.
Is this an instance where because we're a charter jurisdiction, the state has assumed jurisdiction over this issue, and we do not have the authority to legislate in that sense?
I mean, I think that the state has the authority over the liquor sales. The city has the authority over the use, and if it's a conditional use, if the city denies them the ability to have a liquor retail area there, then the state would abide by that. But it is, something between the city and the state, and I can't speak on behalf of the Department of Revenue and the
Sure.
Alcohol Division, so I don't know exactly
I just
all the
was
ins and
wondering
outs.
how you were interpreting this. So your interpretation is we do have, there's nothing in state law that precludes us from denying this conditional use permit that originates in the state's exercise of its jurisdictional authority over this particular area. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably a better question for our city attorney, and she's not
Sure.
present, but as far as I know, that's probably correct. But
Okay.
that might be something that the city council could ask when it comes before them.
Thank you. So modifying the number 7 to say that the use is inconsistent with the use with the middle school across the street?
Well, that might not fly because the state already allows it. And we don't restrict it in our, I don't think we restrict it in our ordinances, do we, Dave? No, we don't. So,
Well, a CUP is discretionary, and one of the bases for denying it is disrupting the neighborhood, I think it says, or inconsistent with the neighborhood. Anyway, this finding would go to that, and so we can deny it if we choose to.
So my language for this number 7 would be, the project is not compatible with the neighborhood and community. And then add a sentence at the end of number 7 that says, as a retail chain that sells merchandise and liquor, this is not consistent with established community character.
Okay.
so another option is you can send it back to the staff to develop findings of fact to support your decision not to move this forward. And then they can come back to the board with findings of fact after speaking with our attorney to support your decision, because sometimes we have done that before.
I mean, typically it's going forward to the city council at their next meeting, so staff can try to interpret your findings based on your discussion, but you guys should be, that's the board, you're charged with coming up with the findings and deciding on them. Staff has provided our draft findings. If you disagree with those, then you have to come up with your own findings. But you don't necessarily have to come up with an alternate finding for every single one of the things. Sometimes like on a variance, one disagreeing with one's enough. In this situation, I mean, you can base it on community character and compatibility.
And I'm also,
But we can postpone to a date certain, though. The board has that right.
Yeah, but
And
you guys,
to get more feedback from the staff and the attorney, or no?
it's already scheduled for the city council, so you'd be delaying that.
Yeah, of course you'd be delaying,
But you guys
it
already
is-
voted on it too, so.
Okay.
Scott, did you have something to add?
no.
Okay, so.
I mean, I guess the other thing that concerns me is the precedent that this sets for other retail establishments of whatever kind. I think it opens up a big door, and that's my main concern. I mean, I'm a good sport, and I enjoy a single malt as much as anybody, but, I think that if every retail establishment in town now starts to see that, hey, this is an amenity that we can offer, assuming that you can get a liquor license, I'm afraid that really would change the character of the community quite substantially. So I don't know where that fits in, that concern here, but I think that's the,
I agree, because you're saying, assuming you can get a liquor license, and I'm guessing that because of the national scope of Kemosabe having outlets in Aspen, Vale, Jackson Hole, Park City, and then this city in Texas, that they have access to funding to be able to buy a liquor license, which not every business in Whitefish does have that access.
That's absolutely true. And I don't know as much about it even as Dave does, I don't, lately. I mean, I used to deal with it, but, you know, I mean, I think it does speak to the, you know, the change that we're experiencing here where we're dealing with these with small town standards and we've got these national, I can't call it a formula retail establishment because it doesn't technically meet that definitions, but it certainly has, you know, multiple locations at a national scale, and I think that's what we're seeing is, you know, what you said, national outfits with the resources to come in and be able to, you know, give away a free margarita to build the business.
Can I point something out?
Please.
We cannot take that into consideration when we're deciding something like how much money people are bringing to the table, or
I understand that.
or if they meet our criteria for formulaic. Is it 12 now, Dave? That
It was
10.
14, we just reduced it to over 10.
yeah, and they've already met that because.
I understand.
So there's some things that could be considered discriminatory because we're trying to shape Whitefish to be something, but so I would think if we focused more on what the harm was, like what hardship would the city of Whitefish and the community of Whitefish possibly endure if we proceeded with setting a precedent for retail having a full liquor license within their location.
Well,
you know?
that's an excellent point. I perhaps strayed too far in my remarks, and to that extent, they're withdrawn.
Okay, so are we comfortable sending forward with an altered finding number 7 to say it does not fit is not compatible with the neighborhood and community? But the sentence, because of proposed use, that doesn't follow. So I would offer a last sentence as a retail chain that sells merchandise and liquor. This is not consistent with established community character. Does anyone have issue with that sentence or like to add something?
Just that we've already they've already met our standard of inclusion for doing business here, because we have a lot of retail chains actually. Most of the time they're down on Highway 93 South, so I don't know if that's actually harming the city. But
Well, you know, this whole discussion, trying to come up with a justification for the vote we've just taken is making me increasingly uncomfortable, right? It's trying to find a rationale to fit the vote, based on the fact that staff, after that vote, pointed out that we would need to change these findings to support the decision. It does raise the question for me, because we don't communicate ahead of time. We don't know what we're going to say. And my preference would be to have alternative findings submitted from staff at the time that we get these things. To anticipate that we may not adopt the staff recommendation. Go ahead, John.
John?
Well, I'm comfortable basing the denial on the fact that it's inconsistent with the neighborhood. We have discretion under the CUP regulation. That's basically what it says. So that one is solid. The question of character or how far we want to go down the road of spreading bars and lounges across the city, I think that's sufficient and legal. And so I think we're okay on both grounds. And in any event, the city council is going to hear this. We only make a recommendation to the city council. So they'll have time to look at these questions, legal questions and other So I think we can move on.
Rebecca, have you been working on wording for a finding?
Well, I have a question, I guess, for staff, if it would be, if at the end of finding number 7, it would read, and the project appears consistent with the established community character. So it would read, and the project appears inconsistent with the established community character because the standard has been cabaret licensing and not a full liquor license. Does that matter to you guys? Mostly because of the hours and the type of clientele.
I mean, I think the chair's addition is probably stronger than that, because I don't see a correlation between cabaret license and this.
Okay, let's go with yours.
Okay, so do I need to read mine again, or do you have it, Lauren?
I think we have it.
Okay.
Could you read it again, though, for me?
Yes. So I have, as a retail chain that sells merchandise and liquor, this is not consistent with established community character. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. And you guys will appear before City Council. Thank you.
I believe you need a motion for denial and adopt the new findings.
First motion
Okay.
failed, so you have to make an alternative motion to deny.
That's right. All right. So,
Who is it? I'll do it.
go ahead, Toby.
I make a motion to, excuse me, deny WCUP 25-05, according to findings of fact, especially number 7, which we have just rewritten. Is that good enough?
Second? Yes. Okay, second. All in favor? Raise your hands. Okay, so 5-4. All against? Mallory, against? So the motion to deny passes. Thank you. We'll move on to number 2 on our agenda for public hearings. This is WCUP 25-08, and this is a request by Rocky Mountain Car Wash for a conditional use permit, and we'll hear from Dave Taylor for this.
Yeah, this applicant's requesting a conditional use permit to construct and utilize a 7-bay car wash along Highway 93 South, the former location of the Big Mountain Thrift Store. Just a couple of years ago, the city council changed the code so that automobile services required a conditional use permit. Prior to that, it was a use by right. That previous
Dave,
building.
I'm sorry, could you say that again? You were a little fast and I couldn't quite hear you.
I said the previously, up until 2 years ago, automobile services were a use by right. So a car wash would have been allowed, but the city council recently changed the code about 2 years ago to require all automobile sales services to be a conditional use. So that's why this is coming forward as a conditional use permit.
Thank you.
It's not part of the Snowy Mountain subdivision. That lot has not come to final plat yet, but will by the time it comes to city council. So it doesn't currently have an address, but it will. And that lot currently doesn't exist, but it will. So it's on commercial lot 1, which abuts Highway 93. The access will be off of the new Snowy Mountain Lane, I believe it is, which is a new road that's not currently open. So it won't have direct access to Highway 93, but rather from an accessory road that's coming off of there. The new address will be 63335 US Highway 93 South. That's the overall lot. It'll probably have a different address once that is platted. It's all in WB2. It's surrounded by WB2. We did put out a notice. We did.
I'm sorry, what's the WR2?
WB2 is the secondary
No,
business.
WR2. There's a component of WR2 here on the eastern side.
There is way to the east of that lot. Of course, the parent lot is currently has two zoning. Part of it's WR2, where there's recently the Snowy Mountain subdivision. And then the western part of that lot, which is basically from Shiloh Avenue or Whitefish Avenue to the west, that is all zone WB2. So this particular lot will be subdivided off with another lot between that and Shiloh Avenue, which is not to be, yet to be developed. It's undeveloped. So there'll be a separate lot, a vacant lot between this particular parcel where the car wash is going and Shiloh Avenue. And then on the east side of Shiloh Avenue is zone WR2. So once
Dave,
this lot's created,
Could you give us a little more help on the location? There's a thrift store on the east side of 93. Are we talking that location or?
if you look at the staff report, there's photos of that Big Mountain thrift store, which has been demolished and it's gone. It's right next to Wolf Auto, which used to be
Okay.
DePratu Ford, just to the north of that location, which is now a vacant lot.
So my question is, does this directly adjacent to residentially zoned area?
It will not be. So part of that lot's zoned both, but it's being subdivided, so it's on its own separate lot, and it'll have another B2 lot between it and the residential property, with Shiloh Avenue also bisecting that, so it'll be on the west side of Shiloh Avenue, and there'll be another lot that's zone B2, and then this particular parcel.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to interrupt. Appreciate it.
We did put out a notice, noticed adjacent property owners. We did get one comment from MDT. They just said to coordinate with them. I don't think they understood that the traffic won't be exiting onto Highway 93, so it doesn't directly exit onto State Highway. We also received two comments with questions and concerns about residential screening and traffic, and then one comment that was opposed to it, thinking there was too many car washes already in the city. Staff has reviewed the project. We do find it complies with the growth policy designation of general commercial. It's a type of use that's permitted. Automobile-oriented uses are something that's permitted in the B2 zoning district. And it's consistent with the Highway 93 South Corridor Plan. When it comes to the zoning regulations and setbacks, it will comply with those things. We have a height limit of 35 feet. The drawing shows that it's less than that, the site plan, but we haven't yet to get final drawings of that. It still has to go to architectural review. With regard to architectural review, because this is considered a formula business, because there's more of these, it's a service business. They are not particularly regulated in the B2. In other words, they're allowed there. That's where we put all of our formula businesses. But the one thing they will have to do is have a design that's not the same as their other locations. So they'll have to somehow change up either the roof line or building materials. However, it is a car wash, so there's a limited types of design that you can do for a car wash. Building orientation meets our code for that. Our off-street parking requirements are being met. Pedestrian and bicycle accommodations are being met with a walkway from Highway 93 that they'll do, and they are showing bike locations, although I don't know why someone would take their bicycle to a car wash. However, if there's employees there, then maybe they want to ride their bikes. So it does comply with the zoning regulations. The site is suitable for the area, and the access standards are met since it's off a secondary internal access road. When it comes to traffic circulation, vehicles will be going through the car wash. The vehicle queuing areas meet our parking requirements. Our fencing and screening requirements will be met. We do have a condition that they enclose their trash facility on the site. That's a requirement. When it comes to neighborhood compatibility, I mean, it is in a commercial zone. It's next to a car dealership. Any traffic counts that were done shows that it's less than 200 vehicles a day, and so a traffic study was not required. They did provide a traffic study that was done at a similar location, and they had an engineer review it that basically stated that the impacts would be negligible. There will be some noise associated with the car wash, and maybe some additional impacts during construction. However, in general, the proposed development is not anticipated to have any negative neighborhood impacts. As far as neighborhood compatibility goes, again, it's in a commercial zone next to an adjacent automobile service car dealership. with the dentist office on the other side, we don't anticipate any impacts. We haven't had impacts from existing other car washes around the community. So based on that, the findings do support approval of the project, and staff does recommend approval with certain conditions. The Whitefish Fire Department will require the applicant to comply with all fire codes. The stormwater plan has to be submitted if the impervious surface is greater than 10,000 square feet. We are having a requirement that they have 2 locking bicycle racks as close to the existing building as possible. Any on-site lighting must be dark sky compliant. As I mentioned, the refuge location has to be screened. We will require compliance with our landscaping chapter. That'll be something we'll review when we review the building permit. And then also, as I mentioned, they have to get architectural review approval for the building, and it must deviate from corporate architecture. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have. And I know the applicant is here to answer further questions.
I don't know where it is in your findings of fact, but that will be the 3rd car wash in less than a mile, perhaps a half a mile. And I know we don't have anything against it, but we were just going through the economic development and trying to find a way to cut down on too many of one business. And it's just a comment, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, currently we don't restrict the number of businesses in any of our zoning district. I mean, there's a whole bunch of restaurants in that zoning district. There's a couple of car dealerships. Downtown has multiple art galleries and jewelry stores. That's not a criteria for us to evaluate.
I'm going to open a car wash.
Any other questions, John?
Is this the kind of car wash that recycles its water?
That's something you'll have to ask the applicant. I haven't seen the engineering plans. I know our Public Works will review that.
Yeah, I was wondering, oh, Mallory, go ahead. Thank you. I was wondering, with the intense water usage, every development that we have come in, we say, how much water can we send to this part of the city, and when is it too much? Have there been discussions about the gallons that will be used, and now that this is the 3rd car wash that's pretty intensive water use?
I mean,
that
again,
we
it's
can
something that
supply?
Public Works reviews. We sent the application to them and asked them if they had any additional comments and or conditions to add, and they were comfortable with it. That's about all I can tell you.
Okay. Mallory?
I just had a question. Are all of our car washes that we have now, are they 24/7?
Yes.
They are, okay. I don't have big, strong feelings about this. I do live near a car wash further down the road, and my only thought, and I don't know, maybe the applicants can speak to this. I do know, like in the summertime, when it's hot out and we have our windows open, it can get noisy at night. Again, not a hill I'm gonna die on, but I do wonder if there are ways, since that there is gonna be a new residential development right near there, how we can mitigate those kind of impacts.
I mean, that's a fair point. I have heard people talk about the car wash that's behind what was Sunriff Brewery, and there's like mechanical voice that speaks to move forward and move back, and that people that live just directly adjacent to that. And we don't have a development plan for that lot next to it. We don't know if it's going to be commercial, it's zone commercial, or there could be residential. We don't really know. I do think you could add a condition that, any, noise or speakers in there not be audible from the edge of the property line. But it's difficult when you're in a car going through a car wash, when your windows are rolled up, to hear the mechanical voice. I actually just washed my car at one of those today, and I had to roll my window down a little bit, and water sprayed my face because I couldn't hear what it was saying. So, it's not always easy, but not exactly sure how to solve that issue.
Go ahead, Rebecca.
Well, we do have a noise ordinance from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. So could we make them be compliant with that?
I mean, that's a disturbing the peace ordinance. It's meant to be specific events. We don't have a decibel requirement for businesses, things like that. But again, you guys have the right to put a condition on there if you wish about noise impacts to adjacent properties.
Well, it's also for construction too.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we regulate. You cannot do construction, between the hours of 7 a.m. or after I mean,
After
before 7
11.
a.m. and after 11 p.m.
I think it might even be 10 for
10 p.m.
construction, and 7 a.m. isn't. Yeah, that's actually a good idea.
All right. So not seeing, go ahead, Scott.
So this raises a larger concern to me that we've been talking about in the growth policy related to mixed-use, commercial, and residential. One of the letters from an adjacent property owner who's a residential property owner is complaining about some of the very issues that we're discussing here, with noise being that close to a car wash. And I'm wondering if that vacant lot, that's WR, is that WR2?
B2, the adjacent
That's
lot is zoned commercial as well. That's between them and there's no residential properties anywhere near this particular location. There will be a future subdivision on nothing's built there yet, but that subdivision's been approved for residential off of Shiloh, to the east of that, but that's hundreds of feet away. And again, the adjacent lot vacant next door, because the state's changed the rules that allows for multifamily on any commercial, so they could potentially do multifamily there, but we have not talked to anybody or had any indication of what might get developed on that adjacent lot. And the highway noise right next to it, as far as decibel meters, is going to far exceed any noise that car wash is making. Just having used decibel meters, and the highways are way louder than most uses.
So, but this isn't so is this a mixed-use residential, commercial? I mean, the thing that's confusing me was, I guess, in your report, you cited, when we were talking about the WR2 zoning district on page 3, the eastern portion of the lot, it says limited neighborhood commercial located along arterial or collector streets are also included in this designation. And I'm assuming that what you meant, that was a mixed-use designation. Is that right?
Well, yeah, you're allowed to do residential in all of our commercial zones. So mixed use is a potential thing. This this particular project isn't putting residential above a car wash. It's not a mixed use development. It's just purely a commercial development.
Right. But I'm having a hard time visualizing how adjacent, how close it will be to future residential. Could be right next door. We don't know.
Potentially, that lot's going to have to, develop on its own. So.
But, and I was looking in the code to see where the WR2 designation allows commercial use along arterial or collector streets. I couldn't find that. Was that an interpretation, or is that specifically called out?
The WR2?
Yeah.
It does in areas that are on major arterials, but there's only one, and it's on Baker Avenue. So it's just a small section of Baker Avenue allows professional offices with a conditional use permit. In a WR2, the majority of residential commercial uses are in the high density residential, like along Highway 93 West, Wisconsin Avenue, Central Avenue on the south end.
Okay.
But
So this approval is not contingent upon any interpretation that you're making under the zoning ordinance?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
And you can look on page 2 of the staff report, shows where the site is in relation to the B2, that's the zoning map there. It shows how far it is from the R2 zoning.
Got it. Thank you.
So how far is this from, this proposal, from the residential zoning area?
Like I said, on page 2 of your staff report, there is a map that shows that. I would say it's, I don't have a way to measure that, but it's probably well over 1,000 feet, 1,500 feet away from the residential zoning.
Okay.
Any further questions for staff before we open public comment? All right, so we'll now open our public hearing, and the applicant can come up and state your name and let us know.
Hello, thank you to the board for your time this evening, as well as to the staff for preparing the findings of fact and the recommendation. My name is Taylor Kasperick. I'm with Performance Engineering. We're working with the owner and operator of the facility, Rocky Mountain Car Wash. To add to what David presented, and just to further clarify, so this is not a subdivided lot yet, but when this is subdivided, this location would be on the southeast corner of the new internal subdivision roadway and its intersection with Highway 93 South. From this location, there's another commercial lot, a pond, and a roadway before you would get to any residential zone use lots. And I think that's a key distinction just in listening to the conversations. This lot was strategically selected to be surrounded by commercial uses, knowing that car washes in particular have a perception of loud noises, lots of traffic, whatnot. So this is easily accessed from Highway 93 and does not bring traffic through other residential roads through the subdivision, whatnot. It's directly accessed from the internal roadway right off of Highway 93. Just to kind of discuss the project a little bit, like David said, it's a 7-bay car wash. 4 of those bays would be the self-service style, to where there's pressurized guns to where they can wash down their vehicles. 3 of those bays would be automatic bay car washes. And these are of the automatic bays where the machinery actually operates around you versus driving through in a tunnel. As far as the findings, definitely agree with the findings and appreciate those. In terms of public comment that has been received, and obviously some of the concerns from the board members traffic-wise, based on Rocky Mountain Car Wash's other locations, so they are a family-owned and operated company that originated in Pinedale, Wyoming in 2002. They currently have 16 locations, and so from that, we realize that we're a formula retail company and fully intend to comply with the requirements to change the style of this building to differentiate itself from the other locations and make it compatible with Whitefish. But with that, they do have very good data as far as their other car washes and how many vehicles per day they serve. This is actually a smaller facility than a lot of their other locations, and we're estimating just under 200 vehicles per day that would come in and out of the car wash. With that being said, I would also add that car wash facilities are largely capture facilities, so we're not going to be generating a lot more traffic onto Highway 93 or even that internal access way. It's going to be capturing vehicles that are already on that roadway. So just wanted to state that in the sense that, traffic is often a big point of contention with any development, but in particular car washes or capture facilities that don't generate a ton more traffic. In relation to noise, I know that could be a concern. There's 2 main generators of noise at a car wash. Those are the dryers at the end of the automatic bays, and then the vacuums. We strategically laid this out so that the dryers of those automatic bays are closer to Highway 93 and further away from any potential residential use. In addition to that, the vacuums, which are located on the east side of the site, the actual turbine that generates the vacuum is located in an enclosed structure. And so that really helps mitigate the noise. And Riley with Rocky Mountain Car Wash is here as well. He can talk through a lot of the equipment that they actually have and how there's lower noise options they would plan to utilize for this facility. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions of the board, if there are any.
Any questions for the applicant?
Just one, you said that there's 4 of them are going to be self-serve,
Correct.
and then 3 are automated. Is it, you drive through it and your tire gets hooked and pulled along, or you just drive in there and the machine goes around you? Which type is it?
Correct. It would be the style where you drive in and stop and then the machine goes around you versus the conveyor or the tunnel style of car wash. That's not Rocky Mountain Car Wash's motto, or that's not their business plan, and it hasn't been. So this would be the automatic bays where you drive in, park, the equipment goes around you, and typically they've got a soft touch option and then a spot free. So.
Okay. That's all. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Can I add one more thing just to address previous
Yes.
question, is in regards to recycling water, and Riley can discuss this further as well, but they do utilize recycling components. They're not recycling all of the water that they use, but for the spot-free washes, they utilize a reverse osmosis system to actually get the water to be spot-free. And those are not super efficient systems, so they're typically discharging about 60 to 70% of the water that goes through that. They do capture all of that discharge water that a lot of other operators would just send to the city sewer system, and they reutilize that water, that's clean water that's just further treated in their wash facilities. So there is that form of water conservation. It's not a full reuse facility, but do try to save water where we can.
Thank you.
Well, there's a
John.
car wash on the west side of 93 which claims to recycle its water. And that's an automatic where the machine goes around. Is what you described the same thing or different in some way?
I'm not super familiar with their system or whatnot.
They claim
Riley
to
is probably more.
recycle all of it.
Okay.
And you're saying 60 or 70% goes out? I'm not sure.
Reclaiming essentially the water that would typically be rejected from spot-free use and utilizing that in the rest of the wash.
Well, what about all the other water? The spot-free is a small fraction of the total water, I think.
Correct, yeah. And I defer to Riley on that. My understanding is that it doesn't produce as good of a wash utilizing recycled water.
So could it recycle all the water?
I'll
Using a different design?
I'll defer to Riley on that. I'm
Okay.
a civil engineer by trade, so less on mechanical equipment side of it.
Okay.
I do have one question. After looking for, on the map, the Laramie location that you guys offered in your traffic impact study, I could see that it was also very close to a couple other car washes. And I'm wondering if this is a strategy or if it's just the way it works out. Do you look and say, oh, there's another car wash, I'm coming close to them? Or try to not impede right next to someone, or how is that working for you guys?
Yeah, I'd totally defer to Riley on that. I think ideally they would love to be the only car wash in town, but obviously that's not possible.
All right, thank you. I
Yep.
guess we will listen to Riley.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Riley from Rocky Mountain Car Wash. I want to thank you guys all for your time. So I guess I'll give you guys a background real quick on Rocky Mountain Car Wash. We're a family-owned, family-operated business. Like Taylor said, we started in Pinedale, Wyoming. We're now headquartered in Belgrade, Montana. And this is our main business. You know, a lot of car wash operators, it's a secondary or passive income business. Excuse me. For us, this is our livelihood and this is what we do. And we take a lot of pride in, you know, building a good facility. When we come into a new market, we, you know, use local contractors. We like to hire local people, obviously, to staff these. And then I guess I'll start addressing some of your concerns. As far as noise goes, we always have an option to use, you know, silenced dryers, because those are usually the noisiest thing in a car wash. And so we've done that in the past at a location that we have in Wyoming. It's, you know, kind of close to a neighborhood, and you know, the neighborhood got built up after we came in, and the residents complained, and so we came back after the fact and invested in a silenced dryer system, and we used, like David actually said, we used a decibel meter, and we calibrated that to be quieter than the highway noise in front of it. So that's something that we take serious. We want to be good neighbors, and we obviously want our neighbors to like that we have a service that we can offer right there. For the vacuums, like Taylor referenced, it's in an enclosed building. We usually insulate that for the equipment itself, but that also helps with noise too. And you know, you can stand right outside the door of our vacuum rooms, and you can barely hear it humming in there. As far as water recycling goes, Taylor was pretty correct there. So we use a reverse osmosis machine that, depending on the location and our water needs, produces anywhere between, I don't want to say something wrong, but it produces a lot of spot-free water is what we call it, and it's just reverse osmosis water. And with that, you always have reject water that comes out that isn't acceptable to be put on a car because it could, spot a car. So we capture that reject water and we use it on earlier, like for lack of a better term, less important passes in a car wash. So any high pressure passes that are used to knock off, big mud or anything like that, that's where we use that reclaimed water. As far as the other car wash, I can't speak to their system because I don't know it, but we've researched a lot of water recycling systems in the past, and the most efficient one that we can find is anywhere between 55 to 60% of water in can be recycled. And that's the most efficient one. Usually where they end up landing is somewhere in between 15 and 25%. We'd be open to looking at a water recycling system if it works financially, but most of these things are very, very expensive and very intricate and take up a lot of space. So I'd be open to any questions if you guys have them.
Toby?
And in the recommendations, if we approve this, there are a bunch of conditions. Among them is approval from the Architectural Review Committee. And we're always concerned that it's going to fit in with the landscape and the look of Whitefish. In other words, we don't want a glaring purple building or some other out-of-character thing, and you're ready to comply and go back and forth with them until we get something that looks
Absolutely.
Whitefish appropriate?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. That's all.
Rebecca?
I'm just curious, how long was your family business looking at Whitefish before you decided to come and build here?
We're always looking for opportunities to grow, and we just got a tip from a friend in town. They said, "Hey, this lot's available here,"
Oh,
and
okay.
so that's how we found it. We haven't had eyes on Whitefish for very long.
Okay.
So.
I love the idea of you using a silence dryer system. We are going to be building quite a lot out behind that lot because that's a targeted area for residential growth. How would we get a commitment from you to do that, or is that a business decision? We can't tell you to do it, but how would we encourage you to do that? Because of the we have, I have heard complaints farther down with the car dealerships delivering things early in the morning. There's complaints from people about the sound of metal and all that stuff. So we have a lot of water in our town, so noise is really an issue for a lot of people. So is that something that you would commit to, is trying to soundproof it more towards the residential areas?
Yes.
In some way?
Yeah, we definitely commit to that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's nice that you're thinking about it and that Mallory brought it up.
Toby?
Looking at one of the drawings here above, looking at the thing, I see the 3 bays and then your central area and the fourth. There appears to be an assortment of trees placed on this. One of them is right in the middle of the 4-bay self-service. Is that just a fluke of the architect's sense of humor, or are you going to have trees around on this, or is it going to be all paved?
Yeah, it'll be paved.
Okay,
Yeah.
so these trees are just not really existent.
Right. I know there's some trees on the lot right now that would be removed, but we wouldn't have any
Oh, wait,
trees.
I see the fine print. Existing trees to be removed.
There we go.
Okay, I didn't see that. All right, you're fine, thank you.
And I still have the question of how you choose to locate across the street from someone or not. Now I understand you got a tip that property was available.
Right.
But do you look at other businesses in the area?
That's actually more of a deterrent for us. If there's a car wash in the town, we do a feasibility study before we come into a market, and that feasibility study takes into account all the the competition in town. And if our numbers don't work, then we won't go in. And so, you know, Taylor joked that we'd like to be the only one, but, you know, we don't take that into account. Where a competitor is, if they happen to be across the street from an available lot that works for us, then, you know, we want that lot that works for us. If they're 10 miles down the road, it's same decision on our end.
And as far as the silencers, you said that, or the silence dryers, you said previously you had different dryers, a residential area came in after the car wash, and so you went back and replaced those?
Yes, yeah, we had complaints from the residents who moved in behind, and so, just in order to fit in and be a good neighbor, we went back in and replaced those dryers with quieter ones.
So it might be more cost-effective to just do the quieter ones in the beginning if we're anticipating residential?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about conditions that we can make on this, and you guys looking forward to know that there will be residential nearby and not have to put some in and then go back and
Exactly.
redo. So, all right, thank you. Any
Yep.
other questions? John, go ahead.
So if we added as a condition that you use silence dryers and that you use the 60% effective water recycle, would it still be financially feasible for you?
So are you referencing the process, the recycling process that we already use, or a water recycling system, like a true water recycling system that would process all of the outgoing water?
Well, I think we should aim at the one that would recycle all the outgoing water.
So that would not, I would have to look at the numbers, but I'm not 100% certain on that.
Point of order, I think. I don't think we can condition how they operate their business. I think all we get to decide is whether or not that's an appropriate place for the business. Is that correct, staff, or am I?
I mean, typically, you're looking at what the criteria are in the code. I mean, we don't have anything in our zoning code that requires water recycling. It's not a condition we've ever placed on any other business or one of the other car washes in town. They do have to meet certain standards with regard to public works of how they treat the water and their stormwater on their site and, you know, how it goes off the site, but it's not something in our code that we regulate.
We actually don't even have a way to determine noise pollution yet, do we? We've talked about it, but we haven't actually
Again, we don't
set up
have
anything.
There's nothing in our code that sets a decibel level for noise pollution. We have a disturbing the peace for certain, you know, if somebody's having a party or something like that and the neighbors complain, then the police have some police powers in order to do that. We do limit, you know, outdoor live music and, you know, construction after a certain amount of time, but
And screaming, if people are screaming, you can call the police, but, so this would be kind of a friendly request to
Sure.
to try to integrate that early on so that you don't get the police called or the planning.
I mean, I do think you guys have the right to put a condition on there. If that's available to them and they're willing to do the silence dryers, I think that's a fair condition to add.
Oh, that's great, Dave. Okay, thank you. John?
Well, yeah, and seems to me that we're constantly concerned with water quality and the capacity of the sewage plant, taking storm drainage. I guess that's where the water would exit into. So I think, based on experience, that we could attach such conditions, but we don't want to be unreasonable, and it's very hard for us to evaluate that. So I guess we could attach the condition, and then you could ask for relief from it.
And just as a point, and if there's a condition that's on there and it gets approved by the city council, the only way to remove that condition is to reapply, to amend your conditional use permit and go back to the city council to have that condition removed. It's not a simple thing for relief from a condition of approval.
And it's expensive too.
But our condition can ask for best possible or quietest dryer available to them. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, you could
within
put a
their-
condition on there that to recycle to the greatest extent possible that's financially feasible. I think
Yes.
that's reasonable.
Okay, thank you.
And then again, we have the luxury of ours being a recommendation, and between now and the time that the city council hears this, more pencil work can be done.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments on this car wash? Please come up and state your name and address.
Good evening. I'm Andrew Bing. I'm also president of the Riverview Meadows Homeowners Association, and we're located on Bonita Circle, which is directly next to Les Schwab, right behind the subdivision that's going in and the construction. I'm speaking against the car washes. I believe that there are more than enough within the area to handle the situation, and there's one directly across the street. I also have significant concerns about the water and sewage. We have the highest rates for water and sewage anywhere that I've ever lived. And my water bill goes up continuously, and I'm concerned about what the rates would happen with this amount of water being used. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Barone. I live at 334 Bonita Circle. But my house actually faces Whitefish Ave, so I would be in direct sight of the car wash. I also have concerns when we have big events like Under the Big Sky. Our water waste treatment plant cannot handle it, and you actually have odors that you can smell. So if we're gonna have 200 or up to 200 cars a day, with all of that water and most of it landing in the sewer to process, it's gonna overload that system. And it's not gonna be able to be managed. And I also have concerns with our water costs. Our sewage bill is almost as much as our water bill. So I wonder what that's going to do to raise our rates. So I have great concerns. There are 4 car washes, or this would be the 4th, within probably a mile and a half. We have the car wash on Spokane. We have the one directly across the 93, which is probably not even a football field's length of this new proposed property going in. And then you have the one that's by Glacier Bank and used to be Sunriff, which is within very close proximity, probably not even a mile. So 3 car washes already within probably a mile and a half seems a little excessive to me, and I'm opposed to having it go in. Thank you.
Thank you. Please come up.
Good evening, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak. My name is Dennis Doherty, along with my wife, who's not here, Leah Williams Doherty. We are the owners of the Whitefish Superwash. Along with my wife, we've built this car wash. We're residents of Whitefish. We support various communities like Whitefish High School Booster Club, Christmas fundraiser, Young Life Silence auctions, and etc. moving forward. Our Whitefish Superwash, which is essentially right across the street from the proposed Rocky Mountain Car Wash, which could be approved and built, will create congestion and traffic that is a staggered, like this lady ma'am said over here, it's staggered. It's not even a football field, okay? We got 200 cars coming from this car wash, and then we got 200 coming from my car wash coming into one intersection. And I got RVs, I got boats, it is a truck and RV boat wash. So we got big traffic coming on into Highway 93. So there is going to be some major challenges, and it's something you guys got to seriously consider about. Not worrying about dryers and stuff like that, all due respect, but we're really concerned. We have issues and concerns regarding traffic right now, leaving our car wash, and working with the city of Whitefish in the past too as well. In addition to the traffic, water consumption and sewer capacity, yes, we do recycle our water. All due respect, sir, I do not recycle 100%. but we're all around the 70 to 80% of recycling our water and also trying to improve it. We are residents of this community. We know the issues regarding our water and our sewage system. And when we built this car wash, we worked with the city of Whitefish to do it properly and continue to do better. The city of Whitefish continues to fight to hold on to the small town charm. I love it here. But the uphill battle is becoming steeper and steeper as large corporations, entities continue to infiltrate the area and drive out smaller mom and pop businesses. In addition to our car wash, which again is basically right across the street of the proposed site, there are 2 other car washes as indicated. One is River Rinse and the other one's AM Car Wash. And then this 4th one coming on in for a community of 10,000 people will definitely bankrupt one or another. I believe in healthy competition. It makes me do business better. It really does. How I could do things different. By building a car wash right across the street from my car wash, which I have 2 tandem bays, okay, truck bays, and I have 2 automatic car washes, which are touchless car washes, coming on in. This is not healthy. It's going to drive out or shut somebody down who are all residents and community or people who reside within this community. Rocky Mountain Car Wash has 15 locations throughout Montana and Wyoming, and they could definitely squeeze the life out of some of the small locally owned washes that, like our Whitefish Wash, will no doubt be part of the overall plan. All due respect, Dave Taylor, it will affect my business. It'll affect it, and I take care of my employees very well. It's tough to keep employees here, sincerely, and we try to take care of them as best we possibly can. But I think the biggest concern I think we got to consider here is not vacuum systems and screening. I think we got to seriously take a look at transportation at that intersection. 200 here. They are using Highway 93. And then I got 200, let's say, coming out of mine within less than a football field, coming onto Highway 93 or coming into each other's sites. It's something you got to seriously consider. It's a problem right now, and I'm being honest with you. And then when it comes down to water, and when it comes down to sewage system, we continue working. I work with Dave Workman to how can we do things better. I continue to go to car wash shows. How can we improve our tanks? Right now, we have 4 settlement tanks within our site right now to improve our water, to recycle our water. So basically, that's all I have to say. Please consider the traffic and safety within Highway 93. And I'm open to any questions. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have one. So I find it difficult to make a left turn in Whitefish anymore, just about anywhere. And from what you're describing, from your perspective, I know that we have an analogous traffic study here, but I don't think one has been done exactly in that area with those traffic conditions. They have one. I'm sorry, go ahead. Please.
Well, right now, let's have questions of
Okay,
the
well,
applicant, and then we can do this during board discussion.
My reading of it was that there was a comparative traffic study done, but that could be wrong. But what's your impression of people coming out of your place now trying to turn left, and how would that be compounded by addition of this other facility?
That's the main reason why I'm here. That's why I'm here. And like I said, competition is good. I just think it's not healthy. If they moved 5 blocks or 10 blocks down the road or a mile down the road or whatever else, healthy. I get it, guys. Okay, I compete. What you guys are doing is going to make my car wash better. How can I do things better? By being right across the street from my car wash.
Make sure that you're addressing us.
Pardon me?
Yeah, make sure that you're addressing us.
Oh, I'm
and
sorry.
Not that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, and no disrespect, okay? Yes, it's going to be, that is my biggest concern. 200 cars from me, 200 cars from them, in a staggered you know, when I drive across my car wash, I hit Les Schwab's. When they cross their car wash, they hit basically the dental area, which is basically my neighbor across the street. It's going to impact it incredibly. And it's not the vacuums, it's the traffic that will be coming onto Highway 93, sincerely.
Thank you.
Pardon me?
I said thank you for your
You're welcome.
comment.
No, okay.
Any other public comment? All right, go ahead.
Thank you for the chance to come back up and can totally sympathize with comments made. I would like to just point out that, you know, if there are existing traffic issues on Highway 93, whether this site is a car wash or another commercial use, there is still going to be additional traffic generated at that facility that would face the same current existing conditions that are being described. So I would just like to point that out, that regardless of whether it's a car wash or a drive-through restaurant or whatever it may be, there's going to be an additional traffic impact at that intersection. So appreciate the time.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Okay, so at this point, we'll close public comment and I'll turn to the board for a motion on this.
Hey, Whitney, I just
Yes.
have one other comment on the traffic concerns.
Yes.
On this particular site, with that new road, it does connect to Whitefish Avenue, which is an arterial that runs, you know, both north to a light and south to JP Road where there's a light. So left turns are much less of an issue out of this site than, say, across the street until Baker Avenue is constructed, which might have access to lights. Currently does not, and there's no frontage road over there. But this particular site does have frontage roads to disperse traffic and give the ability to turn left out of, you know, on JP Road.
Thank you, Dave.
Wait.
All right, go ahead, Mallory. Sure.
Dave, would it be within the scope to kind of like require a condition of approval of like from the highway right way in and right way out, so like no left turns right there?
It doesn't directly access the highway.
Oh, okay.
To get in and out of that site, you have to turn onto that new road, what, Snowy Mountain Lane or whatever it's called. It's just newly constructed. You can see there's like a no entry sign on it right now, but you can see where the road is right there next to Dalen Dental if you drive out there. So that you'll turn in on that road, which is going to be a collector street. That road then connects over to Whitefish Avenue. We can't limit left or right out of that because it's a city street.
Okay.
Then Rebecca, I want to give you a chance to respond to the traffic study you were referencing to Scott.
Yeah, we have had different traffic studies generated for different projects. And one that I remember when there was it went to the Supreme Court, a hotel was proposed and it was 700 traffic trips crossing, turning left into town. And so in a weird way, this proposal actually might help the situation, because if someone wanted to stay on the right-hand side, they could go to one car wash, and if they wanted to go on the other side, they could go on the other, so that people wouldn't be going across. So we know that this is an area of dangerous traffic because we've had multiple traffic studies done for projects out there, but it doesn't trigger lights yet from MDT. So I don't know if the staff wants to address that. I don't think this project is going to add danger at all. Do you, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe so. I mean, again, you know, there's going to be a lot of development out there. Residential uses, you know, have a significant number of vehicle trips a day as that's developed. That is, you know, connects to an arterial, so there's going to be traffic driving up and down. All the people that live in the new Snowy Mountain subdivision and those other subdivisions will also be living there. That less than 200 trips a day is a very, you know, small amount of traffic in comparison to the overall area there. And again, you're connecting to an arterial that disperses traffic north and south, not just out onto the highway. So there's other options for people to be able to get out of there other than just pulling in and out, unlike the businesses on the other side of the street that have to exit onto Highway 93.
So Dave, I have one question for Dave. So in finding 6, finding 6, or paragraph 6, the first paragraph, traffic generation, that number of trips should have minimum impact on the neighborhood. What was the basis for that statement?
That's based on talking to our Public Works Department, looking at the comparative traffic study, and then their engineer's analysis of that. You know, based on the overall amount of vehicle trips that are going to be generated over there, that 200 trips a day is minimal, especially compared to the other types of uses that could occur on a commercial lot. And you know, like a grocery store or anything else, it's allowed by right, you know, could have thousands of vehicle trips per day.
So does that take into account the residential development that's coming?
That does not, because we don't, you know, I mean, the neighborhood that's there, I mean, again, a specific traffic study was not required for this. We don't require one for uses that are less than 200 vehicle trips a day, so we don't have a traffic study that's specific to this site. They did provide a comparative one from another municipality and they had an engineer analyze that, but since it wasn't required, because, you know, we don't require one for anything that's less than 200 trips a day, so we consider that not, you know, minimal impact if it's less than 200 trips a day.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, do we have a motion at this point, and then we can discuss further?
I'll make a motion that we approve WCUP 25-08 for the car wash with the conditions put forward by the staff, and pending a second, we'll go from there.
I'll second.
I don't know if somebody wants to make a friendly amendment regarding the noise impact, although we have no real way of enforcing it or understanding what it is. I mean, I know about it, and you can stand there with a decibel meter 50 feet away or 100 feet away or something like that and see what it is, but Rebecca probably knows more about that than I do, is if we have any laws about.
Oh.
I don't think we do.
We do not, and you would know a lot more about sound than I would, Toby, since you were the boss's sound man for years. But I do have a condition number 10, if I could add a friendly amendment.
Please do so.
Okay, it would read, integration of a silence dryer system, or is it silent dryer system? Silence dryer system, and water preservation recycling technology will be integrated. Is that acceptable to you? Yes. Okay. So I need a second for the friendly amendment.
I second that.
Okay.
I'd like to make a friendly amendment to Rebecca's friendly amendment, and for the water preservation system, let's say, best feasible.
Okay, so then it would read, condition number 10, integration of a silence dryer system and best feasible water preservation / recycling technology will be integrated.
Okay.
You said silenced, not silent? that right?
Silenced.
Silence
ED.
dryer.
Silence
I
dryer
heard.
system.
I just want to make sure we're using the correct. Silenced? Okay.
Oh, it's
With a D on the end.
silenced.
It's
Okay.
silenced.
Silenced, SILENCED dryer system, and best feasible water preservation / recycling technology will be integrated.
That would seem to level the playing field, which would be a fair thing to do, because if the other guy across the street is getting 70 to 80% recycling, well, then this guy should be able to also.
Well, and again,
But,
These
who knows
conditions
how solid
are-
any of these figures are.
Yeah, these conditions are specifically for this conditional use permit, not to be comparing to any other
Well,
competitors.
could be a
So-
standard of practice in the neighborhood.
Well, it isn't.
well, just I'd like to say, we usually don't do engineering conditions. Usually we leave that kind of stuff to staff, but because two of the board members here have brought up valid concerns about it with potential goals for the community at large, I think we can integrate it if possible. So
we have to vote on the friendly amendment.
Okay, so the friendly amendment as it stands, Rebecca will read it one more time and we'll wait for a second and then we can vote on that.
Condition number 10, integration of a silenced dryer system and best feasible water preservation / recycling technology will be integrated, period.
I second the motion.
So motion has been, friendly amendment has been made and seconded. All in favor of this friendly amendment, raise your hand. This is the only one. Okay, so the friendly amendment passes. I think we've discussed thoroughly the motion as a whole. So all in favor of the motion to recommend this for approval, raise your hand with the friendly amendment. Okay, any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all. So now we are moving on to item number 4. Item number 3 was struck from our agenda. Number 4, WCUP 25-06. This is a request by Dalen Property Holdings, LLC, for a conditional use permit to construct a second building on their property, and we'll hear from Wendy for this.
All right, so in the same neighborhood is the Dalen Dental, and they have a bit of a deep lot, and so they're proposing to add a second building to the east of the existing building. Two-story building with commercial on the ground floor and 2-bedroom apartments on the second floor. They'll also expand their parking lot, and it'll be a drive-through parking area that will hook into this Snowy Mountain subdivision. So there's a little road that goes north towards the Dalen property. The applicant's not proposing any deed-restricted workforce housing, so they're not eligible for any of those incentives. And the conditional use permit is required because they're adding the second building. The property is located at 6345 Highway 93 South, just directly south of the Les Schwab, which we are all going to be heading there in a few months to get our tires changed. The property is developed with a dental office and associated parking. It's surrounded by commercial uses and undeveloped land to the south. The property is zoned WB2, has a growth policy designation of general commercial. It's served by all public services and facilities. We did all the regular legal noticing, including to neighbors, and located on the webpage, and we did not receive any comments. We review conditional use permits according to the criteria and the regulations. It does comply with the growth policy for general highway commercial district. It complies with the WB2 zoning district for commercial mixed use and residential uses. They're meeting the setbacks, the density, the parking. They're adding enough parking for the new use, which will be shared with the existing building. Building height will be reviewed at the time of building permit. They're subject to the mixed use and non-residential design standards. The parking is located to the side of the building. It doesn't front on the highway, which is kind of how it is currently. And they are also adding a walkway from the highway to the front entrance of their new building. There's adequate space for the building. Access meets all the standards for emergency services. The quality and functionality of the site is being met through all the different design standards. Water and sewer are available to the site. This project does front on Highway 93, so they will have the option to either go in and out on Highway 93, but they also have the option, just like the car wash, where they could go to that new north-south route and hit one of the lights either at JP or up at the mall. But because it does front on the highway, they do need to coordinate with MDT. That's a pretty typical requirement because it is a change in use for use on their highway. They also submitted a letter, and 200 trips is considered de minimis according to the engineering standards, and they are less than that. They don't require a traffic study at 56 trips. The neighborhood is a mix of multifamily and commercial buildings, so they are complementary there. So we find that it complies with the evaluation criteria, and we're recommending 12 conditions of approval. We'd like them to add some bicycle parking. Again, they have to coordinate with MDT. As projects have been kind of redeveloping and developing down the Highway 93, the Parks Department has requested that folks become responsible for the landscaping and plowing of their own frontage, and so we've added that as a condition of approval as well. They will need ARC review, landscaping plan, and their CUP is valid for 18 months. Can I answer any questions for you?
Questions for Wendy? Anyone? All right, thank you, Wendy. So now we'll open the public hearing, and if the applicants present come up, state your name and let us know your plans.
Hi, Aaron Wallace, 265 Hawks Lake Lane, Whitefish, Montana. I'm the principal architect for Montana Creative and responsible for this project. Yeah, pretty simple, straightforward. The current 1 acre lot that the Dalen Dentistry building is on, they would like to add in a second building. The first floor is about 2,400 square feet of commercial space. Probably, we sized it to be medical, anticipating an accessory use kind of similar to what they have going on there. So we have enough parking, which is kind of the high count required for that. And then they're hoping to get a couple of apartments up above that they would hold on to and then rent out long term. And they're 2-bedroom apartments, nice size. They each would have their own entrance. We have a small decks and patio space, kind of the or mixed use of elements off of that northeast side. We have enough parking. We're actually kind of proposing, excuse me, a sidewalk that kind of goes through the middle of the parking lot area so that it doesn't have traffic flowing through, kind of creating a through street for that. That was a main concern of the ownership. So most of the traffic for the the new building will go back off through that Snowy Lane Road off to the new, which is going to be a huge asset for that whole development all the way through there. We're dealing with several different projects in that area currently because it's now open for development with the new street elements, and they're going to be able to use elements all the way down to the lights north and south of there. So that's a huge benefit in how it's going to distribute traffic through that rest of the area. Same thing as what we've been dealing with for years in Baker, and once that gets connected, some of these, I don't think we have too many people, we just have too few roads. I've been doing this for 20 years here. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys may have.
Thank you. Any questions for Aaron? All right.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you so much. Any public comment on this from any of you? Okay. Go ahead, Becky.
I move to approve WCUP 25-06 in accordance with the Whitefish City Code, Title 11, Chapter 7, Subsection 8, based on the findings of fact presented in the report and subject to 12 conditions of approval, and recommend the Community Development Board approve the conditional use permit.
I'll second.
All right, motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Just, I'm really happy to see that we're getting mixed use down there with apartments above and commercial below. I think that'll be nice.
I echo that sentiment. It's nice to see mixed use along that corridor. Any further comments? All right, let's go ahead and have a vote. All that in favor of recommending this for approval, raise your hand. Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to recommend that we take a few-minute break. We're at 8 o'clock now, and then we'll come back for our last two items. Okay. Thank you. Okay, everyone, we are back to our meeting, and we are now at item number 5. This is WLV 25-01, and this is a request on the behalf of the City of Whitefish for a major variance for lake and lakeshore protection regulations to stabilize the boat ramp at City Beach, and we will hear from McDonald for this.
Alrighty. So this one is pretty uncommon for you guys to see. Any lakeshore items come to the Community Development Board, so I understand if there is any confusion tonight on that. We've only had 2 of these requests in the past 20 years. The reason that it does come to you is because our code dictates when a major variance is requested, it must go to the Lakeshore Committee for a recommendation, as well as the Community Development Board for a recommendation, and then finally it goes to City Council for its final public hearing and decision. So it's just an opportunity for more people to submit public comment, be heard, and have more opinions on such a large project. So this evening, this request is for installing precast concrete slab panels over riprap foundation to reinforce a ramp, the city beach ramp, and prevent further erosion caused by boat propulsion. If you don't know what that means, it happens when you're loading a boat at the dock and you're using power to get your boat onto the trailer. All that wave action causes the sedimentation to be pushed out. It creates a scour into the lake bed and obviously creates some unstable conditions for the end of the boat ramp, as well as with seeing change of water levels throughout the years. We're seeing in late August that trailers are falling off the end of the boat ramp, which obviously causes quite traffic congestion, as well as safety concerns. So this is all to address that. The project will include excavation of approximately 202 cubic yards of lake bed material with a net reduction of 72 cubic yards. A temporary inflatable cofferdam will be used to facilitate dry construction conditions. Additional site improvements include driveway resurfacing, embankment reinforcement, and native vegetation replanting, as well as a floodplain development permit is being obtained in conjunction with this work. As you can see with the staff report, there are very different criteria for variances from what you guys are used to seeing versus what the Lakeshore Committee reviews under. We could go over those in more detail, but for now, I will just go over the findings from those criteria. For finding 1, unusual site-specific conditions create a hardship that cannot reasonably be addressed without deviations from the Lakeshore Protection Regulations. And this variance is necessary to enable essential stabilization work that extends beyond current dimensional and elevation limitations of the lake bed. No feasible alternatives that would both comply with standards and resolve the site's safety and stability concerns. The request is the minimum necessary to improve and address conditions and public access needs. The variance will not materially diminish water quality, habitat, navigation, scenic values, or shoreline character, and will not result in a public nuisance or safety hazard. The project results in a general public benefit by providing safety, functionality, and environmental performance of essential public facility on Whitefish Lake. The proposed work involves lakebed dredging, which requires a major variance consideration regardless of the project's compliance with the minor variance standards. These deviations are necessary to maintain and stabilize existing infrastructure and are compatible with the intent of the Lakeshore regulations. The variance request does not create a major environmental impact. And on July 9th of 2025, the Lakeshore Committee recommended approval for this project, and staff supports that recommendation, as well as some modifications that were made to 3 conditions of approval, which was outlined in that staff memo, which was recommended by Mike Koupel with WLI, of congregating the conditions into a more defined turbidity plan. So that was pursued. Do you have any questions for me?
Questions for Lauren? Anyone? Toby? No.
Well, I can speak to the staff report, and that is that everything's entirely accurate. I'm the chairman of the Lakeshore Protection Committee, and we went through this thing with a fine-tooth comb. Yes, it's on. I can say that as chairman of the Lakeshore Protection Committee, we went through this proposal with a fine-tooth comb. And Mike Copel, the Lakeshore Institute director, was there, and we reviewed things. We added various water turbidity problems, keeping Mr. Heberling in mind, and made sure that everything was going to be done, and the applicant, the city, has complied with everything as far as the Whitefish Lakeshore Protection Committee goes. And so just speaking on this, I recommend we approve it.
All right, thank you, Lauren. And I'll now open public hearing. If there's someone who'd like to give us more information on this, you don't have to, but you're welcome to. It's pretty interesting stuff. Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much. Brandon Tice with Civil Solutions, 315 Anderson Lane, Kalispell. Probably the biggest thing on this is we started out working with Mike at the Whitefish Lake Institute when we were going to look at using like clamshell buckets and digging out what we needed to put the new extension in place. And we got kind of far down that rabbit hole and we started thinking, man, there's got to be a better way to do this because we're really worried about the turbidity in the lake. How are we going to impact the lake's water? So we started kind of doing some digging around and we decided that maybe a cofferdam would be a better way to approach this. So I started making some calls around the country and I got in touch with a company out of Texas called Aqua Barrier. And we ended up developing our design around their methodology. And these are water-filled cofferdams. It's the same material that you have like in your river raft. And they're about 18 feet wide. Don't get scared of these numbers. But they're like 18 feet wide and about 8 feet tall and 75 feet long. They're like big socks. They're sealed at the end and you fill them with water and you lay them out in a horseshoe shape around the boat ramp. And they slowly and gently go down to the bottom of the lake and they sit there on the bottom. And then we pump the water out and then these things kind of settle in on each other and then we can do the work. It's really cool stuff. So we're excited. We're going to be opening bids tomorrow here at City Hall. And the contractors have been reaching out to Aqua Barrier. It sounds like that product is most likely on its way or an approved equal. But this was pretty cool when we got to this place because we got back with Mike and he was like, oh, this is really neat. So then what do we do with the water that we pump out? Well, we're going to pump it out. The pump will be in a filter bag, first off, to kind of collect as much sediment as we can inside the cofferdam before the water goes back out to the lake. And then it's going to be pumped into the middle of 2 donuts or 2 rings of turbidity curtains. It's basically silt fence, but for your lake. And then those will have weights on the bottom, so the water has to go into the middle, and then it'll infiltrate out between both those barriers before it gets to the lake. Now, we got a dewatering permit in place from DEQ at the state level, and they've got some testing requirements for us. So we're going to be doing weekly monitoring of the lake. Wet Water Environmental Technology, an engineering firm here in town, they're going to be doing the weekly reporting, and then I'm going to be assisting the contractor to do daily monitoring reporting as well. And then there'll be reporting that we do back to the state on that. We have our Army Corps of Engineer permit, the 404 permit in place. We're still waiting on the floodplain permit, but I think that's coming shortly, hopefully. And then, of course, this permit, and then there's one other one with the state that's our short-term turbidity, which I don't quite understand because the state's telling us we can have a little bit of turbidity, but then the dewatering permit says we don't want to have any turbidity. So that one's a little bit confusing, but we're aiming for 0 turbidity, and that's what our monitoring is aiming for. So if you guys have any questions at all, I'm here to answer them.
I was pleased to see that the Whitefish Lake Institute has a turbidity. How do you pronounce that?
Turbidity.
No, the meter, the first.
Oh, I don't know the name of the meter. I can't ever say it either. But it's a turbidity meter, I think.
Yeah, turbid meter.
Turbid meter, it's something like that.
Anyway, yeah, so.
And they have one, I believe, they're going to be coming out and probably doing some sampling as well. So we'll kind of be able to compare notes and just kind of see how we're doing.
Well, this is definitely the most extensive application I've seen come for the board here, and I just really appreciate all the hard work that everybody went into this, obvious care and concern about the lake and getting the job done, which is obviously also very necessary. So thank you, Lauren, thank you, and everyone involved for being so careful and thorough.
Rebecca?
You kind of rent these socks?
You do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's, you don't save a lot by renting them. For a 2-week rental, we're looking at about 30 grand. For like a 4-week rental, it's actually a 30-day rental, it's about 40 grand. To purchase them straight up is about 50 to 60 grand. I don't think that they can use these like more than 4 or 5 times before they've kind of seen their useful life. It really depends on where they're using them at. A lot of places there's, rocky soil. We're not gonna probably have that here. It's gonna be more of a silty sand, but yeah.
An aside, but you know how we always worry about oil spills with the railroad coming through. Is this a technology that could be used for that?
Not really, because they're not floating like an oil boom.
Oh, okay. They're on the
but
ground, on the bottom.
when we were originally looking at like using clamshell buckets, we were gonna have an excavator probably on a barge. And then one of the thoughts was, well, what happens when we have a hydraulic leak? Because if you don't plan for it, it's gonna happen. Kind of Murphy's Law thing. So we were like, well, we could put some like oil booms out in ahead of time, or we could put some booms like on the barge itself around the excavator, but what if it sprays? This situation, it's gonna be dry ground. It's the lake bottom. But if we do have a spill, we can remove that soil. Wet has the equipment, they can come out and test it, make sure we got it all before we let the water back in. This is a way more responsible way of, I think, doing it.
Any other questions or comments for Brian?
Have you considered introducing this technology to BNSF?
They don't usually listen to me. One other thing is Carla is going to inspect all the equipment. We're going to inspect all of the cofferdam materials. Everything's going to get inspected before we deploy it, so for aquatic species.
I have a question. Will the City Beach webcam be facing your work so we can watch what's happening? It will?
That'd be kinda
I really
cool.
want to see this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. I know. We'll go there in person to see for him. All right. Can I have a motion on this, please?
I'll make a motion that we approve WLV 25-01 for the Whitefish boat ramp improvements as presented by staff.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you guys so much.
Good job.
It took longer than this.
I'm sure. Thank you for that hard, long work so we can feel
We're the beneficiaries
confident.
of all your hard work, obviously.
Exactly. All right, so we have one more item tonight. This will be presented by Wendy. It's WZTA 25-04, and it's a zoning text amendment. Thank you, Wendy.
All right, so last but not least is the text amendments to implement legislation that passed in this last legislative session. So you remember last month we looked at subdivision stuff. This month we're looking at zoning things. So a couple of things that the legislature did was they eliminated the zoning protest provision in House Bill 713. So this is a provision if you, like a neighborhood was gonna get rezoned. We only saw this like a couple of times. You could, or like a PUD application, if enough property owners within a certain area could say, well, we don't really like to see this, and it forced the council to vote a supermajority to pass a zone change. I think we've seen it, a handful of times again when maybe a PUD application was coming through. It kind of didn't really matter because that was the required vote anyway to pass an ordinance at the time. So anyway, so that provision was struck by the state legislature. So we also are eliminating that. House Bills, or Senate Bill 252, which also went into effect immediately, identified a new type of housing called factory built, which is different than a manufactured home, which is manufactured under HUD standards. This is just built in a factory and not necessarily to the HUD development standards. So we added that to our definition of single family and multifamily as just another housing type, provided that it's on a permanent foundation. And then we added the definition straight out of state law. There's a couple of, we changed the planning board to a community development board back in 2023, and I found a few spots that we missed that. And then we also, as we've been updating sections again, we've been changing shall to the more defensible must. And then there's a couple of review processes that were, pretty out of date that also I eliminated, and I can talk about those as well. So we review zone changes according to the criteria that are in the zoning regulations, which is out of state law. So a couple of things that were in the amendment section, so this is like the zone change subsection, that said that an application needs to be processed per some adopted administrative procedures. We don't have those. I don't know what those are, so I took those out. The community development board stuff was updated. And then there's a provision in there that says a decision would automatically be approved if the council didn't act. We just don't do that. So that used to be in, I think, our conditional use permit section, and we eliminated that so to be consistent, and we don't do that, so. Things just don't automatically get approved. Then there's a section that the applicant has to go and get all the names of property owners, and the Flathead County doesn't give that to private citizens anymore. They'll only give that information to us. So we're the ones that make those requests for information. And then again, remove the protest provision, updated to community development board in a couple of different sections. Added that single-family dwelling and multifamily dwelling could also include a factory-built dwelling, and then the definition at the very end of factory-built housing, which is straight out of state law. So we are recommending approval. Can I answer any questions for you?
Questions for Wendy? Rebecca?
So when we're talking about annexation of Big Mountain, there was some concern about people, sorry, you guys, I'm starting to fade. Let's see.
You think you're protesting the annexation?
That's what protesting.
Yeah, so that would be different than this this is a zone change.
Okay, so they would still have that right to?
Yeah, the annexation stuff is separate, yeah.
Okay,
This is just for zone changes.
okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Toby?
Yep, this is similar to about a year and a half ago or so. One of our board members, I believe, was privy to this when there was a request for I think a CUP or something on Kalispell Avenue and the alley. And all of the neighbors were like, you can't do that. This is all this. And at the end of the meeting, I said, you got to pay attention to your zoning. And all
Right.
of you people are in WR4.
I think that's true.
And I
yeah.
said, if you don't like it, get it changed. And by gosh, they did. It came back before us. I think Nathan and Mallory were part of that. And we had like,
No, they're at the other end.
you're too far down the street? Yeah, but yeah, there was like 60, 70 neighbors that had all signed a petition. And
Right, that was to get their zone changed, but had,
Yes.
like said, the city said, oh, we're gonna zone change you all to, I don't know, WB3, and like 60% of the neighbors says, no, we don't want that. That would have forced the council to make a supermajority vote, so,
okay. But it's still sort of along the same lines.
yeah, kind
except
of a
that
bit-ish.
They were doing it in favor of that. I think the same thing happened over on Iowa,
Right,
when that big.
Mountain Gateway was the last one where the neighbors did the provision
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
required a supermajority.
Yeah, and, it's just, I think that it's a good move. If all the neighbors complain,
But this
City's gotta do
removes.
this removes that, right,
Yeah,
yeah.
the state's requiring us to
States
remove it.
Not allowing that anymore. Which again, it didn't really kind of matter because a supermajority, 2/3 vote of 7 people is still 4. I mean, it's 4. I mean, it's 4 regardless, so I don't know. Maybe it works for like places like, I think Missoula and Bozeman have bigger or city commissions. Maybe that kind of makes a bigger difference, but for our small group, it kind of never really mattered.
Can I ask Wendy a question?
Yes.
So Wendy, though, like if a neighborhood like Kalispell came through and wanted to downzone their zoning, they can still do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is just protesting what the city is initiating.
Or like Toby was saying, those folks on Iowa Avenue, had they been successful, and if enough neighbors said, oh, we don't want them to downzone, then that would have forced the council to vote a supermajority.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that it goes away, it just forces the council, more people
Yeah.
have to vote it to pass it.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that the citizens still have the right to gather and
Change their zoning.
change their
Yeah.
own zoning to
Exactly.
protect their own investments, et cetera.
Exactly.
Any further questions on this?
Not really.
All right. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll move
Okay.
that the Community Development Board adopt the recommendations contained in zoning staff report WZTA 25-04.
All right, it's been made and seconded that we adopt the findings and the recommendation. All in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you all. Do we have any matters from the board? I will remind that we moved the hazard section for the growth policy meeting to Wednesday, August 27th at 6 p.m. So, yep. Any other matters from staff? Okay. Well, yeah, but is anybody not going to be here September 18th or September 17th that you know of right now?
I won't be here on September 17th. I'm going to try to Zoom in if I can.
Okay, thank you, Mallory. All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Thank you, John. I'll second. All right, we're out of here. Thank you all.